Hey everybody, Drew McLellan here from Agency Management Institute. This week we are back to work and we are thinking about how we can emerge into 2021 strong, loud, proud, and how we are going to kick off this first quarter in a big way to tee ourselves up for success. So I had lots of conversations with agency owners this week about that kind of topic. So here are some of the questions that I got asked this week. We do a ton of pro bono work. How do we make it more meaningful for the charity? And how do we make it more meaningful for our agency? Another question that I got asked this week that I fielded was, did a lot of agencies give bonuses at the end of the year? And a third question that I got asked this week was scope creep. Has anyone solved that problem? This week, I'm going to answer the pro bono work question. So all of you, without exception, are incredibly generous people. And you are embedded in your community, you're committed to your community. Many of you serve on boards, many of you do all kinds of things, both inside your agency and on your own time, to make your community a better place. I know that about you because agency owners are generous people. But a lot of times the work you do, the pro bono work you do, doesn't really seem to move the needle for the charity that much, and it's not so great for you. So for example, many of you will design logos for a nonprofit's run or golf tournament or something like that, which appears on a t-shirt with lots of other logos. Or some of you will do a brochure or a website or something else for a nonprofit. But it's sort of a one and done. The charity gets a little something out of it, they get a thing, but they don't necessarily get something that is sustainable and actually they can grow upon. And you as an agency, maybe you get a little bit of credit, but not very much. So I'm going to tell you about something that my agency started, 15 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago now, and we call it Adopt a Charity. So I was in the very same position you were. I was serving on a lot of boards. My people were serving on boards. We knew that when we got asked to serve on a board, part of what they were going to want was some marketing services or some design services, and we were happy to do that. But it sort of felt like we were being nipped and tucked everywhere we went. We were doing this little thing over here and a little thing over there, and I really didn't feel like I could point to a charity that we had really changed because we had really invested in them in a long way, in a big way. And I also was frustrated that despite the hours and hours and hours and the dollars and dollars and dollars of free things that we had done, we didn't get a lot of credit for that, and there was not a lot of benefit back to us. And it was certainly not the main reason we were doing it, but given the dollar amount and the time amount of the investment, I did want something back for that effort. So I came up with this idea that we would limit our charitable contribution as an agency to one charity a year. And the way we were going to do that was we were going to adopt a charity for a year. So here's how it worked. We would put out a media release saying that our nonprofit Adopt a Charity was open for application. And we opened it up at the same time every year. And we had an application. And the application required financial information about the charity. It required a list of board members. It required a letter from the board saying that they would allow us to come in and make recommendations and they would adopt those recommendations, that they weren't just going to say no to everything we suggested. And anyway, there were a bunch of other questions. So we sent the media release out. We called the United Way. We called other people that we knew that had connections with a lot of nonprofits to ask them to encourage nonprofits to apply. And so we had a deadline of when those applications needed to come in, and we typically will get 50 or 60 applications a year, oftentimes from people who didn't win the years prior, but always some new folks as well. And then we created a criteria that of how we were going to decide what charity we as an agency were going to adopt. And the criteria was everything from were they big enough that they could, if we started some things for them, like an e-newsletter or other things, would they be large enough that they could sustain the effort after we left? Because remember, we're going to adopt them for a year, so we're going to have the baby bird in the nest for a year, and then we're going to boot them out of the nest because a new baby bird is coming in. We're going to adopt a new charity. So we wanted to know that they would be able to sustain what we started. We wanted to know that they had a board that was enthusiastic for some help and some guidance and some change. It mattered to us what the charity was about, who they served, but we had a list of criteria. And for every agency, the criteria is probably going to be a little different. So we also reached out to all of our vendors. So local vendors like videographers and a sound studio and a photographer and the media and a printer. So we reached out to everybody that we did business with throughout the year. And we asked them if they would donate some of their time and materials to help us with whatever charity we adopted. So we went into the adoption process with a whole team of companies behind us that were all going to do their part to help us really move the needle for this charity. So then we select the charity. So first of all, when we put out the release, there was always a story on the local news, the local newspaper. We got picked up on some local blogs. We got some great ink, some great PR for having the RFP out. Then when we selected the charity, we would usually score a media story or two when we announced the charity that won. And then our deal was that we were going to report every quarter on what we were doing with the charity. And we made a deal with the business journal in our community to write up a story about how we were, what we were doing for that charity. And I'm telling you, the other requirement we had was we got to present to the board every quarter. We wanted to be in front of the board because obviously the nonprofit's not going to hire us when we're done with our annual gift. But there were a lot of people on the boards who were in a position potentially to hire us or refer us to other businesses. So anyway, we would do all of this work. So we brought them in and we treated them just like a client. So they got great service. They probably got about $100,000 of hours, services, goods from us and our partners. So this is not an insignificant gift. But we had a whole year where we could spend time with them, we could learn about their business. In many cases, we helped them create a signature event, a signature fundraising event that was very unique, that was very brand specific to that charity, that in several cases became their largest, and to this day is still their largest fundraiser of the year. So at the end of the year, we had done really good work. We had taught them how to sustain and keep the work going. And we had, in every case, sometimes we renamed them, we did all kinds of things depending on the charity. But in every case, I know that we changed that nonprofit forever. We made a difference that was significant enough that we set them up for a different level of success every single time we adopted a charity. So the other great thing about it was it gave us a way to say no without looking like jerks. So when other people would call us to do the freebie things that we all get called to do, we would simply say, you know what, we have decided to devote our time to one charity a year. Go to this URL, you can read about our program, you can sign up to be notified when the applications are open for next year, but I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to do that for you because we're dedicating all of our resources to this charity. So it was great for the charity. We absolutely have changed the landscape of many charities over the course of the years that we've done this. It was great for the agency. We got a lot of press. We got a lot of notoriety in the community. We met a lot of the movers and the shakers in the community who sat on these boards. We got some work out of it. And we got to feel really good about the work we did for this nonprofit because we saw that we had impact, real lasting impact. And the third benefit was we had a graceful way to say no to all of the asks that come at all of us all throughout the year. So I would encourage you to think about this kind of a model. And if you are interested in seeing the application and our checklist of how we graded the criteria and a copy of the media release, send me an email and I will be happy to send that to you. So just shoot me an email at drew@agencymanagementinstitute.com and I will send you a sample of our Adopt a Charity materials. Okay? I hope that's helpful. I hope it gets you thinking about how to approach the pro bono work you do a little differently. And I'll be back next week with another question and another answer.